So you've come here for the truth. Well, we've got the truth and nothing but the truth. Here are your hosts, Robert A. Bianchi and David J. Bruno.
This is WMTR Radio, Nothing But the Truth with Bob Bianchi and Dave Bruno, a show about mindset with two lawyers. Love the guests we have on, especially this one, Dave. Not only has touched the world, it's touched our hearts individually. Parents have been amazing. Love them. Understand completely where our guest gets her je ne sais quoi from, as they say. This is part two. Let's bring it down, Dave.
Miss Teen USA.
That's right.
2023. UmaSofia. Mm-hmm. A New Jersey resident, Morris County resident. And this is episode number 3 with UmaSofia. We first had her as Miss Teen New Jersey, and we manifested her victory on the show.
Yes,
if you guys want to go back, because we called it. We said, you will come back when you win. And here we are. This is the third episode with you here. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me back.
Right?
In person.
Yeah.
In person, right? So this is an ongoing conversation, and it's probably not going to be the last either.
I hope not.
I think we're going to have probably a 4th episode.
We're going to talk about a series. I got to say one thing though. Let's stop. Full stop. She's not only not on Zoom. She's now a big title, got a crown on here in case you can't see, but you should be watching because we're also live as this is going on as well.
Yeah.
You have Miss Teen USA Sash. But you know what? Respect. Here's another thing amongst many. You showed up in person. You showed up in person with your parents even after you got this big title. And you know what? That says a lot about a person, that you haven't forgot about the people that you met along the way. Massive respect.
Well, thank you. I mean, you were one of the contributing people who led to that success. I'm sure when they were stalking my social media accounts, they saw Nothing But the Truth and then my cutout with my book. And they thought, wow, 2 lawyers. That's impressive. So thank you guys for the boost.
No, thank you for being here.
Oh, that's awesome.
You want to kick it, Dave? Because I had the time the first.
I want to go right back to that on stage moment, right?
Okay.
And you talked about being on stage and really embracing the present moment and living with purpose and intention. Where did you learn that? Where did that come from?
Well, you already referenced my wonderful parents. It's true that they have always raised me to be present. I have dealt with a lot of anxiety in the past, and I still do. I think I've always been very ambitious, but with that ambition sometimes comes a lot of pressure that I put on myself. And my parents always ask me, like, where'd you get that from? We never pressure you. And I'm like, I don't know. It's self-inflicted. But I just think about how I would have wasted such a wonderful opportunity if I wasn't in that moment. And I think about a lot of times in my life where I would do anything to go back and relive a time when I was 10, And I know I'm still young, but you have those fond childhood memories. And we were talking about this a little bit before. When you have or are doing something in the past and then you kind of let it go and then you come back to it, you realize how much you missed it because you have a second appreciation for it. You have a second coming because it's taken you time to go back to it. So actually one of the things that I want to get back into is I was a classically trained pianist. I've been playing piano since 3. And I didn't have to kind of give it up. I gave it up a little bit because of, everything that's crazy going on in my life. But I could make a billion excuses. I could say everything's so crazy. I don't want to do my homework. I just haven't devoted enough time to a passion that used to be something that I was very passionate about, and I still love music. So you were saying about my future, that's a more personal thing, but I definitely want to get back into the things that made me me and just made me happy, Yeah,
because I think we were talking outside about this, and what happens is, all right, well, there's so much to unpack with all that.
You have to tell the story.
Well, no, I mean, my mom's the boxes. I have to tell some all the time, but it is about reclaiming who you are. And the problem is when you may be young, but you are jumping leaps and bounds in the space of maturity, emotional maturity. Okay. And that is something that you could be 90 and be emotionally immature. Okay. Or you can be 16 and be emotionally very mature. And when you have something thrust on you like this, where you're in the public eye, when you've had a lot of great things you can be doing, a lot of great successes, can have some bad stuff that comes along with that. And you have to watch everything you do. You can start to piece by piece lose what I would refer to, at least in my own life, in my own space. And I'm a very intuitive person, and I've always been a very deep thinker about where am I, what's my spirituality, what's my space, am I being humble enough, and all that. But you can have your authenticity nicked away a little piece, at a time. And sometimes you don't see it until one day, and I think we did mention so.
Who you are.
It's not that you don't recognize who you are, okay? You don't recognize where you are. I always knew who I was. I didn't recognize where I was at.
What am I doing?
And what am I doing? And I always had this feeling. I remember one time in particular, I was in my safe spiritual space in my house, because I am a very spiritual person, and I was praying, and I was empty. I felt a sense of emptiness, and I felt a sense of lack of authenticity, that my life was being controlled by concerns of how does this look and how does this appear and what is someone going to say, and because my whole life was about that. And I remember thinking to myself, I have never felt more alone in my life with more people around me every single second.
True. Yeah.
And have you felt that?
True. No, I've certainly felt that, and I think because I have, it's just my family is just like me and my parents, very small little unit. Because I've had that, I've never truly felt alone. But sometimes for me it was very hard to maintain friendships with kids my age, because I just wouldn't be in school a lot, or I would be doing all these outside things. And I think there comes a point where you keep reaching for the next big thing. You keep thinking like, oh, that'll make them like me. But no, that's not why you should do things. That's not why you should do things. You shouldn't do what makes you happy. You shouldn't look for things to please other people. Yeah,
and I think it can be sometimes a little more subtle than that, right? So we all know not to do things because people, but the pageant has rules, and the pageant has expectations, and this is the way you're supposed to be. Yeah. And other pageant members have never done that before. And there's subtle little things that, like I said, just kind of take away. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that it can happen, and it's very difficult. And we were talking offline when you asked me to say, you are moving on to the next thing and the next great thing.
Yeah.
And you're not backing away. I mean, there's some people that back away, and that's fine. There are some who, want to benefit by what you have to offer, and there are some that can only be the person that delivers what you have to offer, right? You're the creator of this book. Yeah. You're the creator of this title. You're the creator of but I think that at a certain point in time, like we were saying outside, you find what you love, like classical piano. Listen, I used to play piano, not classical, not like you. That is not something I wish to reclaim.
Yeah.
Okay? No. My mother cried when I stopped lessons. I could see her right now bawling.
I begged my mom to quit, but I'm so glad she let me. Yeah. She didn't let me to this day, because it's one of the things that I appreciate most. So
you see that, though.
Yeah, it is. It's really hard to quit, and it's really easy to become disillusioned with everything that you said, that people aren't sticking around, or who am I once the title goes away? Like, where am I? But I think in this hard world, this cruel world, like we like to say, it's often the hardest to remain soft. And what does that mean? It means being emotionally accepting of others who aren't quite there yet, aren't quite there at that emotional maturity, if, like you said, to understand that they're hurting others as an inadequacy that they feel with themselves, and that shouldn't affect who you are as a person, because it's a reflection of them.
I hope you carry that for the rest of your life, because I've seen people, it's funny, you're coming at it right down in my life, where I'm looking at them and I'm like, they're my age now. They're not dead. They got time left, and they're still as hateful, brittle, and angry as they were when we were 20 years old.
That's the saddest way to live your life, because you miss out on so much.
Yeah. Wow.
You have so much opportunity, too, because of the Miss USA. And really, to just advancing this message. More people have to hear this. More people your age, because we're talking about not being curious, right? Your father brought that up, and we talked about it a little. My opinion right now is that everybody's distracted. Yeah. Everybody is scrolling. Everybody's worried about everybody else but themselves. The family relationships are deteriorating. Yeah. Everybody's looking for other things for joy and happiness, when what they have is right in front of you. And that's the message that you're sending. I mean, you have the platform. Yeah. Keep it up. Keep going.
I try to get it out there. I'm a huge proponent of staying in touch with the news. And I know it can be really hard to do that sometimes with everything that's going on in our world. But a lot of what I see in people my age in general is just like, we kind of tend to block out those things because it's like, oh, it doesn't affect us, but it will affect us. Like, we are going to inherit this world. And I think that just applies to ourselves as well. Like, you will miss out on so many beautiful moments with your family, beautiful moments to make yourself like spiritually and personally progress if you have your blinders up and if you are constantly on your phone. And I'm obviously like, I obviously scroll. I'm a teenager. I have TikTok, whatnot. It's bound to happen, unfortunately. But if you take a step back every now and then and really think about what's important and what matters, what you should be spending your time on, I think those are the moments where you progress as a person.
Yeah, I think it's hard for adults that didn't grow up with these things to even be undistracted by them. How about your peers, your people in your previous life, previous crown? How's that been affected by this? Like school and friends
well,
and
to
teachers?
Be honest, school has been pretty much the same. The only thing that's really changed is because I'm out so often, I do have to make a lot of work. So most of my lunches, most of my time at home, I'm not really going out much. I'm doing my work and then doing my work for Teen USA. And it's not isolating. It's not lonely. I've come to a point in my life where I think I'm very at peace with who I am because this is what I chose. This is the path that I chose. And I'm very lucky to have, one or two very supportive friends in my life that, understand what a huge time commitment is and then still love me and like me in spite of that. So it's really nice to have people support you. And I think when we look for friends and look for people who support us, often we're like, oh, they're not smart enough to be my friend, or, oh, they're just not on the same level. They don't have the same ambition. But it's not about that. It's about who supports you. And I can tell you that I have like friends that are polar opposites of me, but I learn so much from them like every day. And to have their support and see how different we are and still be friends, which is what my book is about. I think I had to learn that lesson even after I published that book. And it's really made me look back on my life and think about, who's actually important.
I was just going to get to the book, and I don't know why there's a sticker on here. It says Dole, whatever.
I think that's from the bananas.
So
I eat a banana every single morning.
I thought maybe it's like a subliminal message, like you open it, you want to eat a banana or something.
I don't know why that's there, to be honest.
I'm like, wow, this is like. All right, well, listen.
Wait, what about the sting?
I'm in the middle of it. I'm going to make it work. All right, listen. We got a banana sticker in here. We'll have to talk about this on the other end.
This is like the slip up, the cartoon slip ups where the guy slips on the banana.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to get to that on the other end. WMTR Radio is Elephant Shoe, Bob Bianchi, Dave Bruno. We'll be right back.
At the Bianchi Law Group, our team of former prosecutors and certified criminal trial attorneys specialize in criminal defense and domestic violence cases. When you need a law firm with courage, compassion, and the commitment to fight for you, call the Bianchi Law Group today.
All right, welcome back. The show's Bananas. That's what we're talking about. And we're looking at the White Jaguar. All right, we're looking at the book, and we have a banana sticker on there. You may wish to tell... Wish? It says wish. You may wish to tell us about that. But what I love about the White Jaguar, written by you, UmaSofia, is that it has a Dole banana sticker on it, so it makes me want to eat something healthy. But it's dedicated to your parents, and you have in here, quote, who taught me that what was inside mattered most, which is so obvious when you listen to you, always has been. To my younger self, this book is for and because of you. And the first thing that the character in the book knew was the, quote, feeling of warmth. And this White Jaguar, and there's a glare here, but you can hold it up, is amongst 4 other Jaguar who are not white. Talk to us about the symbolism of all this and what it means to you.
Right. So I think when writing this, it's very obvious to me that this Nieve, this little jaguar, is me, and it's my journey. I promise you, I'm not a cat. It's just what she goes through is she doesn't realize that the first part of the book, she doesn't actually know that she's a different color than the other jaguars. So she finds out actually right here when she is talking to the other jaguars, and they very clearly remark that she doesn't look anything like them. So she has a moment of self-reflection where she goes to the river and looks at herself and then realizes, like, wait, I am different. And so she's swept away by the river's current, and taken to some place completely unfamiliar. And that's how I felt. And I can tell you how this relates to my life. Obviously, there were times where I felt like I didn't fit in, whether that be because of my background, whether that be because I just felt like I was going in a different path than certain people. And I had this moment of self-reflection when it came to right before I transferred schools. And I said, do I really want to go through another year where I'm feeling out of place? Like, I know I still haven't given up, that there is a place out there for me. So when I get swept down the river, so to say, it was me transferring schools and going through all of that and then still deciding to compete for Miss Teen New Jersey. And then I won. And then I fall down a chute just like Nieve does. And it's totally different experience. But Nieve meets people throughout the way who have inspired her. So there's definitely people who these animals represent. One of them was my coach, who is now like a big sister to me. And those people kept me grounded throughout everything that you were talking about before, whether it's like reminding myself why I actually did this, because there were times that I was pretty close to forgetting. And those times were difficult because I had such a clear-cut view of what I wanted to do, that yes, this was going to be the most amazing year. Every single day I'd be doing something with charity work with this. And you have to remind yourself, like, it won't be every single day. You need a break, and there is a time after this where there'll be nothing for you if you don't get it for yourself. Mm-hmm. So I think it's remembering not to stay complacent and still working towards a goal, even though the goal that you already achieved is in your hands.
Why do I believe I remember that there was a time in your life where this was not something you aspired to, that you were having trouble fitting in and feeling non-confident, and you and your mom sat down and kind of come up with pageantry as a kind of...
So to be honest with you, I think the only way that I knew about a pageant was through watching Miss Universe once or twice, but I didn't know that there was Miss Teen USA or Miss USA. I like, honestly, when you ask most people what they think of pageants, they think of like toddlers and tiaras, and I definitely did not do any of that growing up. But what I found so fascinating about this whole aspect of it was that it just allowed you, the message that they say that the pageant is about is just fostering female friendship and allowing you to be authentically you. So when I heard that, I was like, of course, they have to have a catchy tagline, but I think that it's very true. I've met so many wonderful friends. Like, I still talk to my roommate and from Rhode Island and Delaware. And we talk every day. We might not live close to each other, but they are a huge part of my life now. And it's just remembering like who I was a couple years ago. And I love that girl, but I can't recognize myself a year ago because I wasn't myself. I was suppressing who I truly was just to fit in and just to go through the motions. And I'm not going through the motions anymore. And while that sometimes might be tough because, it will cause one or two people to, I still sometimes feel like I don't have a place, but I have to remind myself where I was 2 years ago and how much progression that I've had. Because I think sometimes I can be a little hard on myself, and I think all of us can, where I just see myself like I'm not getting that next big thing. Like, what am I doing? It's not good enough. But then just a month ago, I wasn't at the place where I am now. So why am I down on myself? I should be uplifting myself. So that negative self-talk is, I think, something that I'm still like dealing with and something that I'm trying to resolve, because I think it's really important to remember where you used to be and where you are now.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to know when to put the accelerator and the brake on. I think you go through that your whole life. Some people are always putting the brake on because then you don't have to worry about the accelerator, and then you lose out on so many things. And then sometimes you're pedals to the metal, so trying to move faster than you can, and you got to give yourself a break. And I think it's something we struggle with. Otherwise, you just are in the background all the time and just letting life happen to you.
It's very true.
Do you journal?
To make life happen.
Right.
Do you journal? Are you writing down these thoughts on a daily basis?
So I write sporadically. I love to write. It's just that sometimes, I don't know, I've never been able to keep a consistent journal. I just like write when it comes to me, and it's usually at like 2 a.m. in the morning in my notes app. But I have like paragraphs and paragraphs of things that I just like one day that I will for sure say, because I do say it on a daily basis, but just compiling all these things together is so important, because in the future when you need them, they're right there.
We're going to give you something after this interview. Gift from Bob and I. Aww. Something that we use on a daily basis. Like, it's changed my life, honestly, a daily planner. because I was the same way. I'd have all these great thoughts, and then you forget them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the wisdom. You are literally spewing wisdom in the last 2 episodes of this.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes it's like the memory box. My sister, by the way, I didn't tell you the rest of the story. My sister doesn't have a memory box. There was nothing with her name on it. So when I was taking pictures of what my mother had saved, she's like, "Where did you get all this?" Now she's texting, so her voice didn't sound like that because I didn't hear her voice, but that's what it sounded like to me. Where did you get all this? And I'm like, "Well, Mom had a box." "Well, sorry, Mom didn't leave me a memory box. Like she left you." I said this because I was the wild child, so she knew I would need something. But the thing about the diary is, like, when I go back to COVID, like when I found myself sometimes like in a fog. I'm like, wait a minute, was that before COVID? Did we? You know, there's something where you could pick up like this. I love this journal because it's kind of simple. It's to the point. It's got a little calendar in it. But you could pull up, like, let's go back to 2021 and just see what was going on during that day. Maybe it's just a little note. I think when you have these other journals where it's like they're questioning so many things and you've got to like start thinking about what you're putting in there. To me, that shorts me out.
Yeah.
No. Well, it's not going to be good for everybody. It really does depend. You know, it depends, and we'll see, you know, try something out, because I'll tell you what, life-changing for me personally, you know, I boil it down to the one thing in my day that I need, and that is a reflection at night as to how the day went and what are the most important things. And the morning, you're going to love it because it's about purpose and intention. Setting the day's intention in the morning. What's the priority? What do I have to do? It's almost like your preparation for that stage.
That's what I use it for most.
Yeah.
Your preparation for the stage.
Well,
for the day, you'll see we are on stages. On the stage, back to the stage, okay? Because prior to actually being crowned, you also won Best Costume.
I did, yes. That was so exciting.
For the bee costume, right? And this was important to you, right? Tell us about that costume, what it represented for you.
So I think there were a lot of weird coincidences when I was competing, and I think the state costume is one of them. So I've lived in New Jersey for how long? Since I was 2, and I didn't know that the state insect was a bee. And what was my mom's nickname for me growing up? Her little bumblebee. Because I had always been like, I just moved a lot in her stomach when she was pregnant with me. So she would call me, oh, she's buzzing around like a little bee. So that was my nickname, Little Bee. And so then I found out that the state insect was a bumblebee. I said I had to do it. So I had this amazing costume created by Symblos, and it was just it was like what I envisioned came to life. And I thought it was just so cool that I had like a cute little story about my parents, but also the honeybee is small but mighty. Like, she is determined. They like have a community, and I think that, you know, hasn't been ingrained with me. Those like 2 values have been so deeply ingrained with me. So when I won, I was so shocked. I was so happy. I didn't even have to win the thing. I won the bumblebee costume.
Wow, that's crazy.
No, it was fun. That was one of the highlights of my weekend for sure.
Well, you know what? We got to come to. I'm sorry.
The end. All right, let's get to the end, because that was probably the thing that did it. In that finals, you had to give an answer. Right? Mm-hmm. First of all, did you know what question was coming?
No, you don't know. You never know.
What did you do to prepare? And then in an instant, you had to give that response. What went through your minds before you delivered the winning response?
I think with the question, it's not about what you can do for the question, it's what the question can do for you. in the words of our president. But it's very true. Like, you have to add a little bit of yourself into the question. If you just answer the question face value, the judges don't learn anything about you. The audience doesn't learn anything about you. And when I heard that question immediately, I thought, well, what do I want to tell people about myself? What am I going to do about the year? What do I look for in the future if I wasn't the next Miss Teen USA? So I mentioned my book. I mentioned, you know, my background, which is a really important key aspect of my life, and talked about how if I had this title, I would continue to inspire the next generation to embrace what makes them unique, because that is important to me. And I talked about a little bit of my passion for education, because that goes hand in hand. Books, diversity, my acceptance of myself, like those are important qualities for me. And just to get that in 30 seconds. It was tough, but we did it, guys.
30 seconds. And I'll tell you what, it's almost like a promise. You made a promise to yourself.
Well, that's how I looked at it. I said, if I'm going to say something right now, I'm going to mean it.
Yeah,
and every day I've held myself to that standard.
And we were sweating the entire time. So
definitely on the phone.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have to come to a close. So we've talked about a lot over 3 episodes. I want to know from you, what means most to you that you like to communicate to the audience?
I think, and this is very cliche because we hear it all the time, but we don't realize what good advice it is just be yourself. Because there were a lot of times a lot of years that I spent masquerading as someone who was less than I am or more than I am to please other people or please what I thought other people wanted from me. And it's not about that. It's about living your own life and then in 10 years looking back and being proud of what you left behind, the legacy that you're currently leaving behind. Because you won't have anything other than that. The people will go away, the accolades will go away, and you have to remember at the end of the day, you're sitting with yourself in a very quiet room, and you have to be happy with who that person is.
Sitting by yourself in a quiet room. Sounds like you're on your deathbed giving a confession.
No.
I gave it.
Right? I mean, it's a little morbid, Bob. Let's not get to that point.
It's about the deathbed confession that I talk about. It's a good thing, not a bad thing, but you hit right on it. Probably better if you're not into deathbed. All right, awesome. Killer. All right, this is WMTR Radio. It's Nothing But the Truth. Bob Bianchi, Dave, Bruno. Dave, where can they find us?
NothingButTheTruthPodcast.com. We're also live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So join the LinkedIn event. Let's comment below. And then the podcast will be dropped following Wednesday on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Coming. Thank you for doing 3.
Mom,
Looking
Dad.
forward to number 4.
I'm so hyped.
All right.
We're the Bianchi Law Group, a team of former prosecutors and certified criminal trial attorneys.
But here's the thing. He put himself in a box when he said...
Relied on by CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Law and Crime, and news leaders across the country for our criminal defense expertise.
In a search warrant, you have to have probable cause that a crime's been committed and there's evidence in a particular place.
When you need a law firm with courage, compassion, and the commitment to fight for you, call the Bianchi Law Group today.